Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Lights, Camera, Smile. My name is Cicely and I am your host on this podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in this week. I'm so excited that you're here. This podcast is meant for anybody who has a goal and a dream in life, which I feel like is the majority of us, if not all of us. We all have some sort of aspiration for our life and the time that we have on earth. We all have ideas of what we want our life to look like and what we want it to become. And so a lot of the times we find a lot of those aspirations and goals, they tend to be in more performance-oriented environments, often in work, in careers, in places where we will be in public. And that is kind of where the name comes from, is lights, camera, smile. Like, okay, it's time to put the face on. It's time to pretend like everything's fine, or, however it is that you cope with the disappointment of those things in life, those aspirations, those ideas, those goals, those dreams, not necessarily coming true or coming to fruition at all, or in the time that you think that it should. And so this podcast is for you if you find yourself relating to any of that. If you have had a goal and a dream, if you have had something on your heart and mind to accomplish or be or become, and it hasn't happened yet, or it's sort of like started to happen, but it's just been a really painful emotional process, this podcast is for you. Oftentimes when we have ideas for our life, it doesn't happen the way that we think it should, or there are things that we face along the way that we have to kind of put up a front and continue to act and believe like everything is fine, even though on the inside, it doesn't feel fine. If you see yourself in that at all, welcome. You are why I made this podcast. You are why I'm sitting in this chair in my office filming on an afternoon this Thanksgiving week. I just hope to give words to some of these things that you may be struggling with, that you don't have words to put to them. I hope to validate some of your own struggles that maybe nobody else has before in your life. And I hope to shed the light on an area in both business and personal circles and environments that not enough people are addressing, not enough people are talking about, and not enough people acknowledge. So thank you so much for being a part of the Lights, Camera, Smile podcast family. So as I stated in the intro, a lot of the things that we talk about in this podcast are going to be like goals related. A lot of it's going to be career based. I talk a lot about like my own business and my own like personal aspirations for business success, because I have recently experienced a lot of setbacks in this area. But I think anybody and everybody, whether you have a job or a career, or whether you're a stay-at-home mother or father, or you have like personal goals and aspirations, whether that's like own a home, build your home, pay off your car, or whatever, it doesn't necessarily have to be career based. Everybody has aspirations and they have ideas of what they want their life to look like, regardless of where you're at in terms of your career. And so oftentimes when we don't meet the goals that we have for ourselves, and we don't see the ideas that we have for our life play out in the manner that we think that it should, and say we have like a 5-year plan, and 5 years down the road that 5-year plan like never happened, there is a lot of disappointment that can be experienced by us. Like when we have that 5-year plan and it doesn't come to pass, depending on how attached we were to those ideas and those goals and those dreams in that 5-year plan, we can all experience a level of disappointment, maybe even disillusionment, confusion. And if you get really into the weeds of it all, you can really associate shame with that. Like, oh, it didn't come to pass because I didn't do enough and I'm not enough and all of that crap, which we've addressed in previous episodes on this podcast. But a lot of what I talk about on this podcast with my own personal examples is going to be career-based. And so anybody who is a small business owner, anybody who has a business at all, or anybody who has dreams to kind of like climb the corporate ladder in their own company or organization, will probably relate to the personal examples that I give, but it really applies to everybody like across the board. I really don't feel like it has to just take the mold of somebody who has career goals and dreams. And today in specific, I feel like it can really be a broad topic, and it can cover a lot of different people from, different walks of life, whether you have a career or whether you stay at home and you raise kids and you're a homemaker, or whether you're like completely self-sufficient and you're a farmer and you live off the grid or whatever. I feel like this kind of can apply to anybody in those walks of life. And what I wanted to talk about today was my own personal relationship with the internet, which I feel like is a really funny term. If you're on the internet enough, you'll see that people are starting to break their silence about their relationship with something that has become difficult to manage or toxic in their life. A good example is, people are like, oh, my relationship with food has changed because either they had a poor perception of how they were fueling their bodies, or they suffered from an eating disorder in the past, and that eating disorder skewed their perception of what food was for. And so they've worked on healing their relationship with food. And the same can be said for your relationship with money. If you have a skewed perception of what money is and what it's for, if you define yourself based off of how much money you have, you can have a poor relationship with money. I feel like the same can be said about our relationship with the internet. And it is a really silly thing to say, like, oh, yeah, I have a bad relationship with the internet or whatever. But if the same can be said for food and for money and even with ourselves, then I 100% believe that our relationship with the internet can be toxic. But nonetheless, my relationship with the internet has always been a tumultuous one. It has been one that has been difficult for me to navigate. I guess since the day I got on it, especially social media. And as I mentioned before, speaking at length about this is something that I do on this podcast, and it comes from a bunch of different things online, but all of it stems back to me growing up and not really having a healthy perception of myself in general. And so a lot of the times when we have like unresolved trauma, or we have like open wounds in our life, how we engage in any way, shape, or form with life and the tools that life hands us in order to achieve those goals and those dreams, that can be the filter that we see these tools through and how we engage with them, and it can determine the outcome, or at least what we perceive the outcome to be. So my relationship with the internet, I think my first encounter with like the actual internet, it's really hard for me to remember because as somebody who's my age, I'm 28, and I grew up as the internet was really like becoming this big thing. I'm not like this current generation that is like surrounded by digital devices and the internet is everywhere and at our fingertips. Like, it wasn't like that. We had one home computer and everybody had to share, including my parents, who both collectively like worked off of that computer, and it lived in our kitchen. And so I don't know if anybody who's like my age can like have that flashback of like, oh yeah, anytime we needed to use the computer, we had to go into the kitchen in the public area. And so that kind of like determined what all you could do. And at first, what I was using the computer for was really like some silly computer games. I remember I started playing this game when I was really young, and I think it was prior to me being school age. I'm not entirely sure. I grew up with siblings who were all very close in age to me. So if I was playing this game, it was likely because they were playing this game and they weren't in school, but I just was intrigued by it. It's kind of what ended up happening, is we all collectively went through something together and we all participated. But I played this game to kind of like refine my learning skills. It was called Jumpstart Preschool. I am still traumatized by this game to this day because the graphics were really creepy, and my parents to this day, I'm 28 years old, my parents to this day make fun of me because I would play the game for the sake of like the other games, and then there was this one game that my siblings wanted to play and it just freaked me out. And to this day, they make fun of me because I would just run out of the room crying because it just gave me the ick, I guess. Back when the ick didn't have a name, that's what it was for me. That was like my first like introduction to using any sort of technology at all. And it's funny enough, it was something I did not really enjoy, but I did it anyway because there were some aspects of it that I did enjoy. And then I remember when I kind of got a little bit older, we discovered something called MSN messaging. I hope I'm really taking some people back right now, because that was like the texting before we had phones. And there was only like a short window of time that I could access the computer and like message my friends from school. It was so funny. We would spend all day together with each other, like my friends at school. And then we would run home, do our homework. And as soon as the computer was available, we would just like chat for hours. And it's like, I spent all day with you. Like, how do I have more to share? But that's kids. And then when I finally got to be in, I think it was like 6th grade. So I guess that some areas like consider that junior high, whatever. It was in my like preteens. I got a Facebook, and it was so awesome. At first it was like, man, I can keep up with all of my loved ones who don't live locally. I can message all my friends from school, even though I see them every single day at school. Like, what else do I have to share with them? I don't know. Whatever. So I thought it was the coolest thing ever. My parents had it for the longest time. And so I just want to be a part. When you're young, you get FOMO like easily. At least I did. I can't speak for everybody, but I know when I was like 11, 12 years old and other people had, they were participating in something, I had such FOMO. I wanted to be a part of whatever they were doing. I wanted to know what was going on. I remember our youth group back at church when I was 12, I think. The starting age that you could start attending the youth group was 13. And I'm 11, 12 years old. I have older cousins. There were people in the church who were a part of the youth group that were older than me that I was friends with, but because I wasn't of age yet, I couldn't attend. And I mean, I remember like begging my mom, like, please, is there any way that I can sneak in? I just want to know what happens, because they would hype it up. I mean, they're like talking amongst themselves like, oh yeah, youth, we did this, we played these games, and then they talked about this. And I mean, it just sounded like the place to be. And I don't know, maybe I'm an anomaly, but I just had such FOMO all the time. And I felt that way about Facebook because my parents had it. And then my older cousins had it. My older friends had it. And I think it was probably also around the time that it was like just getting its start. Man, I feel like I'm really aging myself. Anyway, I just had such FOMO. And so I'm like, okay, what is this? I'm going to be a part. I want to know what's going on. And when I finally did, it was like, man, this is so cool. I can keep up with everybody. I can see what their life is. I can see what's going on in their life, and I can be a part even if I'm not like physically there. And that was like my first like actual introduction to the internet outside of like Google searching and Gmail and all of that stuff, which that was a whole other thing, like being able to chat on Gmail, like chatting with my mom while I'm at school. I loved to like engage in any way that I could. I loved to engage with people. And the tool of the internet was so, to me, it was like this open heaven just like came, just like opened up over me, because it was like the opportunities to connect with people were endless. And you could do it in a way that was like sneaky, because like you could be in your Gmail in class, like messaging somebody, and your teacher would never know. It was like this like really fun way to hang out with people, like covert. It's just, there were so many elements of it that was like, it was new, it was fresh, it was fun, and it was almost like a game, like just participating in it for the first time. And those were some of my first experiences with the internet. The opportunities and all of the doors of opportunity just like flew open to me, and I was like blown away at all of the ways that I could see the world, all these new ways I could see the world. And it was so much fun. It was access to games. It was access to people. It was access to different parts of people's lives that I wouldn't have otherwise had. And then you had like all of these major iconic things that were rolled out, especially with like school age children. Like if you think about Pop Tropica, Polly Pocket, and all of that stuff, like we were playing that all the time. Like it's just, all of that was like freely accessible to anybody who had internet. And it was so fun. And I remember after getting my Facebook and really like discovering Polly Pocket and Pop Tropica and MSN and all this stuff, it almost was like a fire hydrant of like new things, like an entire new world I discovered once my fingers touched the internet for the first time, typed in like a website for the first time. I have no other words to describe it other than I know that it was addictive. Like all of the dopamine was just rushing through my brain, and all like my senses were just overloaded with like all of the stimulus that my brain needed in order to feel like alive. And it's so ironic because all of that stuff was happening in one room on a screen. And I'm sure you know where this is going. Like that became my life. Like once the internet really took off and all of these things started rolling out, like Facebook became a really big thing. And then, you know, Twitter and Instagram, and now we have TikTok and all these other ways to engage with the world around us, on top of like the video games have really taken off, and all of these things that the internet has provided. Of course, it's been like amazing because it really has been like a whole other world has opened up because of what the internet has done. But in my personal experience, it was like not only did a whole world open up, but my entire real reality shut itself, almost closed. And I remember becoming really obsessive. I don't know if like people who know me could confirm this or not. It's just when I think about like growing up, a lot of my growth and a lot of my childhood had to do with something that needed internet. And it was almost as if like my brain became accustomed to having that constant stimulus and having that constant screen and having that constant like something to fill me up and fire off that dopamine and fire off that joy, because I was always thinking about it. I was always thinking about like the next time I'm going to get on Polly Pocket. I was always thinking about the next time I'm going to get on Messenger, and the next time I'm going to get on Facebook, and the next time I'm going to do this and that. And it was all well and good in the beginning because it was new and fresh. And then the older I got, then I got like a smartphone, and with the smartphone came apps and all of these other, you know, games you can download and you can carry with you wherever you go. It was no longer the computer in the family kitchen. It was in my pocket. And any free moment I had, I would pull it out. And where would I go? As I've aged and as I've like matured, you know, those things have changed. At first it was like, you know, fun games that I had on my phone. It was all just like, it wasn't for anything like educational. You know, I wasn't like opening my phone to read a book. I wasn't opening my phone to like do anything like that. I was opening my phone. I'm going to play a game. I'm going to listen to like a song or whatever. And then as I've gotten older, it's like, oh, I'm going to open my phone and scroll through Facebook, or I'm going to scroll through Instagram. I'm going to scroll through TikTok. And it's like at this point in my life, it is second nature. I don't even think about it. I pick up my phone and I find myself like just scrolling. My mind is at this point, I don't even know. It's like I can completely disengage my brain from like reality. I don't want to cry. I'm fully aware of the fact when I think about it that I can pick up my phone and scroll and realize that I don't even know where I am. I'll be scrolling for an hour, 2 hours, and completely forget everything that is physically around me. That is how much it gets a hold of my brain and sucks me in. And so when you factor in the fact that later on in life, I started a business, you think about the fact that at this point in the internet world, if you want to have a successful business, like if you want to have traction at all, you have to have some sort of digital footprint. And that requires being on social media apps. That requires being on, you know, things like Pinterest so people can see your content. There's a lot of like really amazing things in terms of the skills that you develop in order to create all of these things and all these platforms in order to have a digital footprint. I will always say that without YouTube, I would know everything that I know about video editing, about like shooting video, about shooting photos. I would know because the internet provided that to me, especially for free. Like that was the amazing thing about YouTube. But in terms of what it also has done, it's created this expectation on not just business owners, not just companies. It's almost a part of our culture that to be a part of the internet is to have a life that's worth sharing and seeing. And if you are not a part of the internet, then you're missing out on all of the ways that you can engage. You're missing out on our culture. You're missing out on the world around you. And it somehow makes your life like subpar in that way. And it's odd because, I have heard firsthand many people that, I meet and I want to engage with, I want to follow up with them. And if they don't have a Facebook, if they don't have an Instagram, it's difficult to keep up with them. I have heard from other people, when they find out that somebody doesn't have a Facebook or an Instagram, they're like, oh, that's so weird. Like it's almost anti our culture if you don't have this, if you're not a part of it in some way. But I can attest to what it has done to my brain and to my life. And I'm not just talking about social media. Unfortunately, the majority of my experience is with social media. Like this isn't just about social media. This can go into video games. It can go into television, streaming, what streaming has done to the movie market. And it's not all bad, but like, it does rewire our brains in terms of how we interact with the world around us. For me, social media being such a pivotal part of our life and the way that we do business and the way that we interact with other people, both professionally and personally, I almost like need social media. I almost need the internet. Like anytime that we have the internet go out, whether it is locally or we have an outage like nationwide, worldwide, the entire, like all of the businesses that are connected to that internet are at a standstill. I remember recently we had the internet outage with airlines. And for that day in particular, multiple flights across the world were canceled like that. There was nothing that could be done. And people were stranded either at home, they couldn't get where they were going, or they were stranded where they were and they couldn't get home. It was like, sorry, there's nothing we can do without internet. Locally, speaking, the other day, I'm working a shift at the coffee shop and it's like pouring down rain. I don't know how it happened, but we had an internet outage in our downtown region in our city. And our entire coffee shop literally just shut down. Like our music shut down, our entire Square system, how we do our point of sale. We were not able to even turn on our tablets, and we were having to take orders, by hand, write them down, and then either take like Cash App through our company Cash App, or we were having to take cash and then calculate the change, which to somebody who has grown up without the internet or before the internet, they were around before that, they're like, yeah, that's how we used to do it back then. But you don't understand. Our entire world, our entire way of living has completely changed. The internet changed the course of our lives forever. And I'm not sure that it'll go back. And so we're at the coffee shop having our internet outage, having to calculate by hand, getting people their change and subtracting, $3.75 from 20. And what does that come out to be? And it's like, we're struggling to do simple math because we've been so reliant on the internet to do it for us. It is shocking to think that before I got a Facebook account, like I was regularly outside, using my imagination to create these scenes in my head with sticks and stones and loose bricks and trees that I had. And I had this whole world in my imagination because I had no other way to imagine anything. And, me and my brother and my sisters, we were all play together and it was amazing. And then in our neighborhood, because we were always outside, we were always riding our bikes, we were always like hanging out, like we became very well known in our neighborhood with the people who would be out, walking their dogs with our neighbors. And then we became close with our neighbors. We were all like very close relationally. And then when I experienced the internet, it changed the trajectory of my life in terms of how I even operate. And I find myself at 27, 28 years old, laying in bed for 2 hours, so deep in a social media hole that when I come out of it, I'm like, how much time has passed and when did I get in bed? And don't get me wrong, I do love the internet and I love what it has done for the world around us. I love all of the jobs that it has created. I love all of the things that have come from being able to digitize things. Like my own job was affected and it gave me an opportunity to learn how to use the equipment that I use because of the internet. And it's made things easier for more people to join my industry because it's not like we're not handling like physical film and we're not having to be in a dark room developing film. Like it's easier and therefore more accessible and more people can do it and we can create more jobs and it's all beautiful. But my personal relationship with the internet and what I have allowed it to become is that I don't have it, it has me. That is why there's so many episodes in this podcast where I am like devastated and broken and torn apart by things that in the grand scheme of my entire existence and the fact that we live on a floating rock in space that orbits a star that is burning, like my entire reality is just like broken apart when I don't get enough likes on my post. And I think that it's so great to get likes and comments and for that to be how business is. But I've spent so much of my life recently, especially inside, looking at a screen that I forget that the leaves are changing colors. That there are beautiful sunsets happening and I'm missing them. That there are people that I could be meeting that I'm not meeting because this has a hold of me. And then, on the flip side, especially with social media, when we allow that world to really develop a tight grip on us, we start to believe that our phones and the internet and social media is reality and the world around us isn't quite as real. What we see on our screens is somehow more tangible than what we can actually touch and feel around us. And we look at other people's posts and we look at other people's likes and comments and the things that they're sharing. And we somehow believe deep in our minds and in our hearts that everything that they're posting is better than the life that we're living in our current reality. We want what they have online, on what we see online. That's what we want for our real life. And the fact of the matter is, like, social media, especially the majority of the internet, movies, television, that too, arts and entertainment, magazines, all of that, but specifically social media, because I feel like it's a little bit easier to be deceived by it. But all of that is not real. That's not real. Like, people are not going to sit here and take a selfie of their crying baby that has like had a blowout all over its diaper and its clothes, and the selfie is of the mom whose hair is in knots because she hasn't had a chance to brush her hair in 3 days. She hasn't showered in the same amount of time because she isn't sleeping. She's just trying to manage. Nobody wants to see that. People are not going to get on TikTok. I mean, I say that. Some people might, because people on TikTok really got some guts. But the majority of us are not going to get on TikTok and endlessly sit there and whine and moan and complain when we have to file bankruptcy after our 2nd year in business. It's not cute. People don't want to see that on the internet. The reasons why we go on the internet is to have a dopamine fix. Like, let's all be so for real. We get on the internet to reconnect with people, to see the good, to get a laugh, to be distracted, because come on, the majority of the time that I get on the internet, I should be doing something like work related or house, cleaning my house or folding the laundry or whatever. And I just can't be bothered enough to do that. I would rather be distracted. And so I get on social media hoping that I'll find like a cute dog video. And that is what social media has become. It's a distraction. It's a blindfold. Like, hey, let's forget that your life is absolute shit and be distracted for a moment. And then on the other hand, the tools that I need to use for business are crap because I could be using them to connect with people. I could be using them as a distraction. I could be using them as a way to engage with the world around me. But instead, because that's how business has completely pivoted, I'm way too distracted by everybody else's success and everybody else's highlight reel and all of their wins, because people don't want to share their losses online, that I sit and look at my account and I look at all my failures, and I know the truth behind my facade online, especially my business facade, that I sit there and wonder, what is wrong with me? Why can't I get those numbers? Why can't I, have that success? Why don't I have that amount of followers or whatever? And it's just not real. Even in business, it's not real. And I am so desperate for whoever is listening to know that like, it's okay to get on your business Instagram. Like, let's say that you're a painter and you really, really want to make a mural someday. You just really desperately want to actually be able to make money off of your skill. And let's say that you get on your business Instagram and you follow a bunch of other painters so that you can be inspired by their work and inspired by their stories and inspired by their success. And you keep facing for weeks or months or even a year the lack of engagement, nobody's hiring you, and all these other people are sharing their wins. And it's hard not to wonder, why not me, if that's all that other people are sharing? But I want you to know that behind the follower count, behind the likes and comments, behind all of the success stories, there are losses. It's not glamorous. People don't want to share that stuff. They don't want to say that. They don't want to admit that, like, hey, a time or two I was unprofessional. Hey, a time or two I made a bad money investment. Hey, a time or two I wasn't great with my kids. Or it's just people are not getting on the internet to just scroll through that. That's not what keeps us addicted. That's not what keeps us engaged. What keeps us addicted and engaged is the dopamine fix. And it's sad because when I was 11 years old and I made my Facebook account, I just wanted to be connected to the world around me. But the world around me on the internet is not real. And unfortunately, I have to tell myself that almost daily. Because I want so badly to have the highlight reel in my life, in my real waking life, in the life that I'm walking around in, and everything tangible. But a highlight reel is not the full story. It's just the high points of it. But life is not just high points. Life is also a lot of lows. And to be honest, I think that's what makes life beautiful. It's the fact that it's not always high points. It's not always the mountaintops. It's the valleys. It's the uncertainty. It's the risk. I mean, the stories that really grip us are the ones that have the overcoming part of it. You can't overcome something if there's nothing to overcome. If you're living a life of just high points, like what is there to overcome? What is there that's like relatable, to be honest? But many of us look at the highlight reel of other businesses, or we look at the highlight reel of other families, or we look at the highlight reel of other friends, and we get so entrenched in that and so distracted by it, whether it is because we envy that and we want that for ourselves, or we're convinced that it's not going to happen for us, so it's best just to live in that with them and celebrate that with them and be distracted from the pain of our own disappointment, whatever it may be. It's just, that's not, it's just not real. Like, there's so much happening on the other side of that person's screen when they click post. Since being married to my husband, we develop a lot of like inside jokes about each other. And I love this about marriage, because there's a lot of me that my husband sees that not everybody else gets to see, and vice versa. When I don't really have anything to do, or I'm bored and I reach for my phone and I get on TikTok, I do find myself like just doom scrolling, and it'll be a while and he'll come in and he's like, "Oh, you're still up?" And I'm still scrolling. And he has pointed it out to me more than once, actually quite a few times, just, asking like, "Are you doom scrolling again?" Or it's like a lighthearted joke, but in a way, I wonder if it's like his way of like trying to bring it to my attention. He's not exactly wrong. I get so like entrenched in it, whether it's like a story time and I need to know the rest, and then it leads me down a rabbit hole and I'm stuck in like all these conspiracy theories, or whatever's happening in the world, or there's like this scandal and I need to know, or it's like a bunch of dog videos and they're all just so happy and they make me happy and it's a nice distraction, whatever. You can really doom scroll, I guess, for any reason, but he has pointed that out on more than one occasion, and it gets, a lighthearted laugh from me, almost kind of insincere, because he has his own ways of doom scrolling. But since getting this job at the coffee shop and working part-time, I will get up in the morning, go work a shift at the coffee shop, come home in the early afternoon and try and switch gears for work. I'll either be like rolling out galleries, and that's like a big deal. I need to meet that deadline, or be working on films. And for a good chunk of time, when I was readjusting to this additional like job, I didn't really have hardly any time to be on social media, whether for business or personal reasons, because by the time I got all my work done, I was like wiped and I needed to wake up again in the morning to go work another shift at the coffee shop. So it was like, I would be editing photos, and the majority of what I would do is I'd just watch like Gilmore Girls, and then I would go to bed, and that was it. I spent a couple weeks actually away from social media, like in my regular amounts that I used to be on it. Like my dose of social media and my dose of like that dopamine hit was a lot less. And at first it's funny. Well, it's not funny. It's ironic. At first, when I started this job and I wasn't able to like regularly post and engage and stay on there, I started to panic. I was like, oh my gosh, well, if I'm not on social media and I'm not engaging and I'm not using the tools for my business, then everything that I've worked so hard for is going to come crashing down. All these people are going to unfollow me. Nobody's going to want to like my posts anymore. And it all just became about like the self-preservation of my business. I needed to get on there in order to save something and prevent something from happening. Not so much this place of, I need to get on there. I have something I want to share. It's coming from this place of joy and freedom and creativity. Like, no, it was out of obligation, but I physically could not do it. Like I could not get away from the coffee shop. I wasn't able to take a break to make a post. And if I did, then I had nothing to post because I didn't have time to like schedule something out. And so I legitimately, for a couple days wrestled with this whole guilt of not being online. until finally it was just like, I don't have the ability to do it. So what will be, will be. Like, I've got to let this go. I need to try and find a rhythm. And when I do, it'll be fine. Just trust that it'll be there. And I wasn't on social media for a while. I remember making multiple stories about how I was working on my galleries and I was working on the work side of things, but I wasn't posting. And it wasn't due to anything other than my schedule was just slammed. And with the upcoming holidays, it was like my priorities were going to be family and work and my deadlines, and then everything else after that. I spent a couple weeks off of social media, which meant I was no longer scrolling. It meant that I was no longer, ruminating over everybody's likes and followers and comment counts. And I was no longer comparing myself to those people because, number one, I didn't have anything to compare because I wasn't sharing anything. So I wasn't able to, but I also just wasn't because I wasn't on those platforms. And I spent more time with myself. I spent more time with my husband. I spent more time doing things that were just in the tangible, real life, if you catch my drift. And I felt like I became more aware of the world around me, even in those short few weeks. It was like I was undoing what had been rewired in my brain over the course of over a decade. Honestly, maybe 2 decades because I'm kind of old, but that amount of time of just getting off and taking a break was enough for my eyes to be opened to how much I depended on it, how much my business depended on it, and how much I felt crippled without it. Like my entire reality was online. My business, my website, my YouTube channel, my podcast, all of the things associated with my business were online. And also my personal life, I don't have family here. And so that's a way for me to stay engaged with my family. Then just spending so much free time on there, like as a way to like fuel my brain, was also online. There was just, I started to realize how much of like my time, whether personal or professional, I spent online, on social media, on all of these platforms, just wasting time, spending time on it. And because I was unable to be there, it was like my priorities changed. The things I wanted to do changed. I wanted to go outside more. I wanted to be with my dog more. I wanted to try new things. I wanted to get back into old hobbies that all required me to put this away. And as much as I worried that it was going to hurt my business, and I love my business, I love what I do, I love being able to shoot weddings and be a part of these love stories with these couples. So of course I want to make sure that my business doesn't just go down the toilet. I don't want to neglect it. So I wanted to be able to make these posts because I wanted to prioritize the success of my business. But at the same time, there was a perspective that I had towards the tools that I needed to use for my business, that my perception of them was completely skewed. And feeling like 4 or 5 years worth of work was going to be completely undone in 2 weeks because I wasn't online engaging or whatever is just silly. But also to completely forget that like I also have to take care of myself. I am an intricate part of my business. And if I'm not mentally doing well, or if I'm physically exhausted because I'm picking up a second job and I'm adding more things to my plate, it's not the end of the world for me to pause on this and take care of myself. But I was almost unable to do that, or I did do it and felt completely guilty and ashamed about it. And it's all because of the internet and my phone and how much I'm so dependent on it, both in my personal and professional lives. And being able to almost have something that forces me to set it down and then have this eye-opening experience that like, as I'm driving to my coffee shop job, noticing all of the leaves changing and all of the amount of leaves that have fallen, and having more time to spend with my dog and my husband, and then being able to re-engage in hobbies that require me to put my phone away, and feeling like a part of me that was dead is being resurrected. All of that came from my relationship with the internet changing, because the relationship that I have had with the internet for so long has been a codependent one. Like, in order for me to mentally function, in order for my business to physically and financially function, it was like, I have to engage on the internet. I have to be on the internet. I have to. It's like, it was oxygen for my business and for me. So you can imagine how I felt not being able to be on the internet on a regular basis because it was adjusting to a new rhythm. I mean, the fact that I'm saying these things out loud, it's crazy, but it is so true, and we need to say it. We've absolutely got to say it. If you are missing aspects of your newborn's life or your young kid's life because you are doom scrolling and you're stuck in other people's worlds, or if you have a friends get together, this has happened so much, especially recently. And even in my life, we invite all these friends over and we all sit in the room, we have a chance to talk and catch up, and we all pull out our phones, we get on TikTok. Like, why in the hell are we all together if we're all just going to be everywhere else? Like, please make it make sense. But this is how the internet has rewired our brains, how social media has rewired our brains to where we mentally and emotionally are not physically present in our real, tangible lives. And we miss things until something happens and we have to put the phone down. And then we realize, and then when I'm having this like epiphany, I'm like, how did I miss this? How did I not realize that I needed this? How did I not see that this was here? How did I not know? And I am not dogging the internet. I'm not dogging social media. I love it. It's great. But social media and the internet and video games and all these other things, it's not my oxygen. Getting off social media for a week, a month, 2 months, a year, it's not going to kill me. It won't kill you. If something comes up in life and you have to deal with that first, it's not going to annihilate your business. It's not going to put you in this major setback. But we have to disconnect from the IV of dopamine in order to realize that life is so much more than being invested in somebody else's scandal or being invested in somebody else's highlight reel and not even realizing what's in front of us, the life that is in front of us, the moments that we're missing, the time that's passing by that we can't get back. And I am so thankful that I started this job and it literally forced me to put my phone away. I may have lost some followers. I may not have as high of an engagement level on my content when I post, whatever. But you know what? My mental state is healing. My heart is healing. There's things around me that I'm realizing were there the whole time. It was just, I was so absorbed with what I needed to do online that I couldn't see it. Like, if that's what it requires, then fine. Like, I don't care. Like, my business is greater than this. My dreams and goals are greater than this. They don't need all of these tools in order to succeed because I don't need them. There's more to it than that. Should I use them? Absolutely. But is it going to kill me if I don't? No. And it won't kill you either. It won't take you out. It won't hurt you to put your phone down and be present at the family dinner, especially, with the upcoming holidays. It won't hurt you to not post on Thanksgiving Day. You don't need to. Be present. There are moments that are going to pass by you that you can never get back. Put it down. Put the phone down. Turn the internet off, for goodness sakes. Unhook it from the router. Like, be done with it just for a moment so you can be present. Go out and throw the football with your grandkids. Go out and throw the ball with your son. Go be there. with people, with real people that you can touch, that you can hold, not the people that are on your phone screen. And I get the long distance thing. That doesn't count. Like, FaceTime your loved ones. Okay. That's different. But you get what I mean. Don't get on TikTok and waste away 5 hours of your life because you don't know what else to do with your time. Go find a hobby. Go rediscover something about yourself. Go pick up a book. Go do something that you can touch, feel, taste, smell, all of your senses. Be a part of the tangible, real life as much as you can. Because to be honest, and I've said this before, when I die, the follower count that is on my Instagram, granted, it's not much. I cannot take that with me. I cannot take all my likes and my comments with me when I die. But you know what I can take with me? All of the memories that I made and all of the love that I shared and all of the people that I had in my circle. I can't take stupid statistics with me. It's all absolutely useless. And so if you have a choice between giving it your all on social media and growing that follower base and all of that, if that is your number one priority, go for it. It is going to take a lot out of you, and you will find yourself where I have found myself, in the comparison trap, in the place where you are obsessing over other people's successes and wondering when you'll get there, and pushing and pushing and pushing in a world that is not real. Or you have the ability to be fully present in the tangible world around you. You can do either. You have a choice, and that's the wonderful thing about life. But what I have learned is that it doesn't have to be all or nothing. It really doesn't. But the majority of the time, we give most of our time to one or the other. You need to understand that there are good tools out there to help you achieve your goals and dreams, but they are not worth your entire life. And if you allow it to happen, it will rob you of your life. But you have to make a decision, and you have to understand that this has to be put away at times in order to wake up and see what's around you. This is a tool, and it's also a distraction. And you have a choice as to what it is, because tools are not used every hour of every day. They're used for a task and then they're put away. I don't use a screwdriver to type on my keyboard. I don't use a fork to drill a screw in the wall. Like I use it for its task and then it gets put away. I don't take it with me wherever I go. And this damn thing comes with me wherever I go because it is both a tool and a distraction. And we have to set limitations on ourselves in order to break the toxic relationship with the internet that we all have. We all have it. We sit there and we scroll and we look at everybody's highlight reels and we get distracted and we waste hours away and we miss moments. And before we know it, the beautiful fall that we all anticipated and we want to see the leaves change, we spend hours in our office and we're editing or we're playing video games or we're watching Netflix or whatever. We look out and all the leaves have fallen and we miss the entire season. Or you name it. It has to stop. It's so unhealthy and it's so wrong. And we're now seeing a generation raised on this thing, staring at it, 1-2 years old. They are addicted to it already. I need to realize that my life, I don't get to be 27 or 28 multiple times. I don't get to be in my 20s multiple times. I get one chance. And then after that, then 30, then 40. And I don't want to spend it just laying in my bed, scrolling. Or spending hours on social media wondering, like, when am I going to go viral? Like, let's be for real. There's so many things that are way more important than that. I mean, do I want to make money in my business? Absolutely. Does that mean that I have to go viral? No. I would rather spend time with my husband. I would rather spend time with my family. I would rather spend time doing something that I love to do that is not work related. Like, let's be for real. And so I want us all, now that we're going into the holiday season, to try and make a commitment to ourselves to be aware of how much we spend on our phones, how much we spend on the internet, how much time we spend off by ourselves, disengaged from the world around us, obsessing over the world that's inside that screen, and try and get out of that. put it away, put it down, turn it on do not disturb, and be present. Be present with the people that you are with. Be present with yourself. Go and be outside. Look at the world around you. Appreciate the life that you have. That's what makes it all worth it. That's what makes the success in your business worth it. That's what makes all your dreams and goals worth it, because that's who it all was for. That's what this life is all about. It's about being truly lived. And that's what makes all the accomplishment amazing, is because you're living your life. But if you get to your accomplishment and you see all your goals and dreams come true, and then you have nothing and no one to share it with because you've been so obsessed with the world that's inside this screen, it's not worth it. And so I want to lovingly wake you up, and I want to wake myself up. I want to spend more time loving the life that I have and not obsessing over the life I wish I had, because I'm stuck comparing. I'm stuck looking at people's highlight reels. I'm stuck staring at a phone. I want to learn to be grateful for what I already have, but that's going to start with me being physically, emotionally, and mentally present in the life that I have. It's not easy, but you can do it. I believe we all can. We can set boundaries in our relationship with the internet, in our relationship with social media, and finally, I feel like, see the scales fall off of our eyes and look around, and then be even more inspired to create. Be more inspired to go out and take more pictures and share with the world, or be more inspired to paint something or to invent something. Like, honestly, I feel like the majority of inspiration to create comes from creation itself, not from the stupid internet, which I know the internet is a creation, but you look at nature. Look at all of that creation. Be a part of the people's lives and their stories and all of the intricate details of the world around you. And watch what happens. Watch what happens in you. Watch what happens in the world around you. It's beautiful and it's worth it. And when you get to where you're going and you see all those dreams and goals come to pass, and you watch yourself become who you've always wanted to become, once you have the right priorities in order with the internet and then you'll have all of the people to celebrate it all with. You'll have all of the memories along the way to make the goals and the dreams all worth it, and not a complete and total waste, and not empty. So let's all take a deep breath. If you are like me and you find yourself on the hamster wheel of chasing the recognition, chasing the fame, chasing the fortune, chasing the goals, because you're stuck looking at everybody else's accomplishments and their highlight reels, and you want to be where they are, or whatever, it's time to get off. It's time to set it down. It's time to look at where you're at. Because you may not be here again. I won't be 27 ever again. I'm now 28. I won't be 27 ever again. So I have to appreciate all of the things that I learned in 27 now that I'm in 28, and understand that I need to be present in 28, because I won't ever be 28 again. And the same goes for whatever season of life you're in, whether you're a first-time mom or father, or you're building your home and you're paying off stuff and you're maybe starting a business or whatever. Like, there are so many other aspects of life that you need to be fully present in, because you may never get to experience that again. Your life is worth being fully present in. Your life is worth being fully lived by you, whether your goals and your dreams come to pass tomorrow or next year, or they don't, or your life looks completely different by the time that you reach the end of it. It doesn't make all of the things that you were fully present in, and that you embraced, and that you loved, and that you gave your all, and you have memories for. it doesn't make all of that not worth it. It's actually worth more. And I want that for you. I want that for me. And so it all starts with a decision, one small decision to set boundaries around not just our work, set boundaries around our mind, set boundaries around our hearts, because this is something that's both a work tool, it's a personal distraction, it's a way to engage with the world around us. And so it affects almost every area of our life. And so we have to confine it so that we can remember that our life is happening right now, whether we're present in it mentally or not. But it's worth being present for. And I hope that that can be validating for you. I hope that it can be encouraging for you to hear that, and challenging even to push you to remember that this isn't real. This is. My body, my mind, my heart is real. My phone is not. My social media is not. Whatever happens is going to happen, and I'm going to learn from it, and I'm going to grow from it. And then I'm going to continue living my life. I'm going to continue loving my husband, loving my dog, loving the house that we live in, loving where we live, loving making new friends, because that's not going to change regardless of what my social media feed tells me. Like, come on. And that's the same goes for you. So this holiday season, let's all do our best to remember that our life is worth being fully present for, and that our goals and dreams are wonderful. But if they are our main focus because of what our highlight reel is telling us, and we're getting stuck in the comparison trap, then we need to reprioritize. We need to remember that the leaves are actively falling off the trees, and we might be missing it. So I hope that you are encouraged. Know that I love you, and I only want what's best for you. And I would never share something like this with you, and I would never be challenging unless I myself want that, and I'm pushing that for myself, or I'm actively walking it out, because believe me, I am walking this out, and it's all good. And we're all going to be okay. We're going to come out the other side of this, and we will all be better for it. So know that I love you. Know that this is a safe family to be a part of, and know that I'm so grateful for the time that you spend here with me on this podcast. I hope that you enjoyed your Thanksgiving. I hope that you enjoy the upcoming Christmas holidays. And I hope more than anything that you can take a deep breath and open your eyes to the world around you, and know that I am here cheering you on. Thanks so much for listening.